Welcome to Talking Giants, presented by SeatGeek. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Pennick, and we have our guest co-host, the football grump of the Just Giants podcast, because we are wrapping up way too early draft week, and we're looking at the defensive side of the ball. And I will say, because this is not a good thing to do right before the episode, the offensive players make me way more excited than the defensive players, but gosh darn it, there's a safety who I just want on the New York Giants. Justin, how are you?
And he also goes to Miami. So, I mean, you want to...
It's double want.
Double whammy. You want to speak Bobby Skinner's love language.
He's the highest graded Miami player we've done.
Wow. Ever. In our short couple-year history. Hi, Bobby Skinner. Hi, Football Grump. How are you? Happy Friday to everybody. It's officially summer. That's a thing. So, 1 week closer to training camp. Bobby Grump and I, we were having some convos with the Patreon before the show, kind of mapping out the rest of our schedule. And it's like, man, we got to map out what we got left. But honestly, there ain't that much to map out because everything in football and everything that we get so excited for, it's right around the corner. The Football Grump, how are you, my friend? Thank you for joining us again. Also, by the way, Just Giants podcast. Go check it out. Go subscribe wherever you can find podcasts, YouTube, wherever. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, that was quite an intro. Thank you. I'm a terrible host and I always forget to plug my own stuff. So I appreciate that. I'm doing well. And you're right. This is the 4 weeks of enjoy your summer, right? After this,
it's a teacher schedule. The NFL is a teacher schedule.
Yeah, that's right. And then we had that poll during the draft of who works harder, teachers or Talking Giants, right?
Dude, I forgot about that.
I didn't.
I think we won that.
Oh, I didn't see the results.
I didn't see the results either.
I'm excited to talk these guys. I know that you gave them kind of like a downer intro, but the important thing to remember is that all of these guys only have their true sophomore season under their belt. I'm pretty sure every single guy that we're going to talk about. So they are all likely to make big leaps in their game. And what we're looking at is true sophomore film, which is typically, when you look at players, not very good. So there's room for improvement here.
And honestly, because of the COVID stuff, these episodes have been a little old, older guys the past couple of years. I think where it is getting younger, and especially on the edge group. I want to see big steps from the guys on the edge. But I remember last year, BJ Ojulari wasn't super high on him coming out of this podcast. And then when it watches his film from last season, he made some real growth to his game to where I thought he was I had him as a late first round grade. So, yeah, definitely some growth to be made by some of these guys, but some guys I'm just in love with. So, are we ready to get right into it?
Hell yeah.
Where do we want to start? I kind of went Dallas Turner, the edge out of Alabama first. Is that good to start with?
I follow you.
All right, yeah. Let's just go in order of the way I have this. We're going to go Alabama edge Dallas Turner, the guy opposite of Will Anderson Jr., who this guy wore number 15. 6'4", 245 pounds. Had 4 sacks and 8 tackles for a loss this last season. Actually had 8.5 sacks and 10 tackles for a loss the year before in 2021. A quick, rangy edge with a smaller frame, but I think there's weight that needs to be added to it. But just a great first step speed with real pursuit speed to match it. This is a guy who, if you leave him unblocked on the backside of a play, he's going to come and chase it down. And what I like about him the most, guys, is I think he just plays with great leverage and consistently just gets under guys' pads. And for his size, his strength is really good. Got a violent punch, and he just plays violently all over. But as a pass rusher, he kind of exclusively works speed to power. And hey, he's good at it. He's got a rapid foot drive. He's got that good strong punch, but he's not strong. He doesn't have the full body strength to just be a speed to power guy like Lucas Van Ness last year. He's not that type of guy. So he's going to have to, add more to his pass rush bag, because right now it's a bull rush. It's the one arm bar. He works around the corner, but he's not bending with that one arm bar. Just doesn't really work his hands at all as a pass rusher. But you see, this is the guy. If you ask me, out of the 3 edges, we're going to look at Dallas Turner, Chop Robinson, and then out of Ohio State, JT Tuimolau. This is the guy I think who's going to be the best out of the 3. Do you agree, Grump, or no?
I think so. So right now, you pretty much listed everything. like I said before, like for true sophomore film, this right now is just an extremely athletic guy. And that's kind of how I view him. There's like still so much for him to learn, but there's still plenty of time for him to learn it. When I look at him, I just see a great burst off the line and like the mentality, the aggressive mentality to keep your legs driving. And, he gets results that way of just bringing speed to power. Like you said, I don't see a crazy bend around the edge. The bend looks really average to me. So he's going to have to develop a lot of moves and stuff. And right now he's got none. But the thing is he's getting results just kind of exploding right into a guy and just, knocking his ass over. It's really not anything more technical than that a lot of the times. Additionally, though, I would say like you were saying, like some weight needs to be added. I would underscore that. 240 pounds is kind of what he's listed at 6'4" for an edge. Typically you're looking for somebody who's going to be 6'4", I guess in today's NFL is closer to acceptable, but like, you're typically looking for somebody who's like 6'5", 6'6", and like in the 260 area. Just as like a general, this is how you would want somebody to be, just to hold up against the run and all this other stuff. So it's just, there's a lot of growth that needs to happen, but all of the things that you can't teach, he's already got. He's got pretty good length to him at 6'4". That's not bad. He's got the speed already. He's got a good jump off of the line. So it's really just all the in-between things. It's just the becoming an edge rusher kind of thing. Right now, it just sort of feels like he's a little bit of an athlete that could be playing any defensive position. Do you get that feeling?
Well, I mean, that's where I come in, and I tend to stay away from takes like this because I don't consider myself like a football savant, but I feel like Dallas Turner like can possibly transition to being an off-ball linebacker. Because I mean, Grump, you think about it, I understand, he's a sophomore, he has, these years of eligibility left, but still 20 pounds is a lot of, you want to add good weight too. You don't want to add bad weight. You want to add good weight and keep the athleticism, the good athleticism that he has, right? 20 pounds is a lot of weight. It's a lot of weight. And I see a guy that tackles well. He wraps up. He's made some plays in coverage. He can sense where the ball is going during run plays. I see a guy that could possibly make that transition because of how good of an athlete he is. It may be a shame because of he plays like he's shot out of a cannon and, that kind of stuff that can work at edge. And I know there's maybe another edge rusher that, we're going to talk about that, can make that transition to off-ball linebacker. But especially for Dallas Turner's size, I see that being a possibility, but also with growth, I can see it how you can stick to edge and be a good edge rusher too.
Well, and we saw a guy in this last draft who Alabama had at edge and moved to linebacker, and Drew Sanders, when he moved to Arkansas. But I do see like a good, like the Ohio State guy we're going to talk about. I don't see enough great pass rush production. With Dallas Turner, I see like enough good pass rush production. It's like, well, just use how to work, use your hands and stuff. And I think
we're also in a day of age in football where, the Micah Parsons is like the only exception that we've really seen this, right? But we've seen enough college prospects who have played off-ball linebacker get reps at edge, and it's like kind of like a little bit of a weapon that teams can utilize. So who's to say that maybe he can't do a little bit of both? Who's to say?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think we're seeing more and more. What makes college teams better than others is recruiting better athletes a lot of the time, and scheme. You work around the traits that you got, that the guys you have. And we're slowly seeing that influence spill into the NFL level. So I think Nakobe Dean is another one that can possibly fall into that Micah Parsons kind of thing, where it's just like he's freaky athletic. He can drop into coverage. He can, just rush balls to the wall. And that kind of makes his actual position a little bit mysterious and ambiguous and harder for offenses to know exactly what he's going to do at the snap. So I think that there's somewhat of an advantage to that as well. So yeah, I mean, I think right now Dallas Turner can, and at Alabama of all places, there's plenty of good coaching there where he can develop the things he needs to be a good edge, but I could see him dropping into coverage and being an off-ball linebacker. And one other thing that I did notice about him is that he right now is relying a lot on just crashing inside and just throwing his body into people a little bit. And sometimes he can do that a little too hard. So I think now is the time for him to develop moves, work his hands a little bit more, and try and do something other than speed to power a little bit.
Yeah, and I think he's got like the capability to do it. Like, I mentioned BJ Ojulari at the top. Like, if he can start to work some of those pass rush moves, like he's got the athleticism. Now, he doesn't have the bend that BJ has, but like I think he can develop into a solid pass rusher. Now, I don't think he's going to be a top 15 pick, but I think he can be like a solid. I think he can sneak his way maybe up into the end of the first or early second round. But just because, like, hey, he really does play violent, works that speed to power, the strong hands. A lot of times with pass rushers, it's like, man, why don't you work some power into your game? Where it's like you're not going to be able to be a finesse rusher like consistently down and down out in the NFL. And like playing the run, like he sets a firm and consistent edge where a lot of guys cannot say that that we're going to talk about. So there's a lot there to like out of him, but it's just like, hey, develop more. And this is why out of the three edge guys we're going to talk about, he's the one I like the most.
I would agree with that as well.
All right, let's talk about another guy from the SEC, and that is Jamon Dumas Johnson, the linebacker out of Georgia. Georgia's got another linebacker I like. 6'1", 235 pounds. Now, I don't know if that's what he's listed at, but he looks thick. 6'1", 235 is like becoming like you're a bigger linebacker now. Where it's like all these guys coming out are like 6'1", 225. Athletic, strong, instinctive linebacker that I think he just fits today's game. And the speed and burst pop off the tape, and it's just consistently putting him near the ball. And it shows up the most with his lateral quickness, which allows him to slip blocks and just like he's springy to get near the ball. And what I like about him for the guy who fits this profile, I think he actually like stacks and sheds blocks with some pretty powerful hands, and like he has good leverage. So like I was watching him versus Ohio State, and the guard we were talking about, Donovan Jackson, I think his name was, I forgot already. It's like he was getting underneath his pads and just opening his shoulders just by winning with leverage and speed and leverage. And then I actually think he uses his hands, which a lot of linebackers don't. They're looking to slip every block. Now, Jamon does slip blocks, and and that's good, but like he's not afraid to take on a block, which a lot of guys are. Now the hard thing is always going to be playing behind that Georgia D line, because the way they fit up the run, it makes it a lot easier for linebackers. But he did that well, and then coverage wise, like he's got the speed to carry verticals and coverage. And there's some pass rush production in there too. What did you think of him?
I actually liked him. I'm going to talk a little bit about his coverage. I thought he looked really good in zone coverage, the limited amount that I did see.
He has some bad moments, but he looks good when he's doing the right things.
Yeah, he's not super polished, but I think one of the most common things with linebackers playing out of college is that they either don't have the downhill trigger or they don't have the coverage. It's usually one or the other. And it seems like he's making his way to having both. So I think he reacts pretty quickly to breaks in the route. I think he reads the backfield while in coverage pretty well. And one thing that a lot of guys in zone don't do is they usually just stay in their like zone bubble. He'll play to the man, which is, obviously, desired. You get close up in there. It's essentially like man coverage. I do think that you had said that you saw him shedding blocks pretty well against Donovan Jackson. I had watched a totally different game. He definitely takes on blocks really well, but I do see that like he does the same thing with blitzes where he's just kind of throwing his body in at 100 miles an hour, and he does play at 100 miles an hour. And sometimes when hands get in on his chest, he has trouble shedding them, but at least he does blow up the block a little bit. If he can work on shedding blocks, or maybe I just saw a game where he played particularly bad with that. That's definitely something that's going to help him. I really like how quickly he triggers. He's a fast mover to the cutoff point. I think he takes really good tackling angles. His big problem, I think, is when he has a head of steam, he can kind of, they teach you to chop down especially in special teams, they teach you to chop down your speed as you get closer, and he can just outrun a tackle entirely. I saw it happen 3 occasions in one game. But of all the problems to have, I'd rather have to teach a guy how to do that than to tell a guy he's not going in at 100 miles an hour. So I think, again, this is another case of a guy who's got a lot of the tools. He's got his head in the right place. It's just, he's got to keep growing, just keep learning. As far as his size, though, I don't know. I think he looks good. I don't think 235 looks right to me.
Do you think he's bigger than that or skinny?
I think he's bigger than that.
I think he's bigger too. And he's got like a skill position player number 2, which should automatically make him look smaller, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he looks like linebacker size. Like a lot of times you watch these guys, you're like, man, you look like a safety. He looks like linebacker size, and 235 is plenty beefy. In this class, I think now linebackers is hard to get them in the first round, but I think at the very worst, like he's a top of the second. Am I getting too excited about him?
If he continues to grow, I could see that. As of what I watched, I would say he's a second rounder at best, maybe a third rounder. But again, we're watching true sophomore film. Like there's so much more that can change with him. He can get a lot better just by getting older. You know what I mean? He's still a pretty young kid.
Yeah, again, you see the athleticism, and again, I don't think he's like the best. Like he's not Jack Campbell the way he sheds blocks. He's not some of those top linebackers that we see that shed blocks. But when you see a guy with his athletic profile, sometimes they can be annoying as shit to watch at linebacker because like, dude, play linebacker. That's how you're gonna get better.
He actually plays linebacker.
And he actually does do that and take on blocks. Now, again, with someone with his athleticism, a lot of times he's making offensive linemen whiff. And you're not going to do that at the NFL. But again, he does have that speed to, break down an offensive lineman and get around them. But at the end of the day, you got to be able to, he's at least got the power in his hands to shed those blocks. And I like that about him. Justin, why don't you read an ad before we talk about the next guy who is my favorite guy?
Bobby Skinner loves to be a little tease. Because today's episode is sponsored by SeatGeek. SeatGeek, they're a bunch of geeks that provide the seats. If you don't know what they are, they're a ticketing app that makes buying tickets super, super simple. Get your tickets to Giants games this year. Officially time to plug that. Come join us at some tailgates. We're going to have a lot of fun this year. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. There are more than 70,000 events every single day in SeatGeek, including sports-conscious festivals, and so much more. And when you're buying tickets, let's say to the Giants Cowboy game, week 1, you want to go to the green section. I guarantee you there's a lot of green deals, a lot of good deals up by me, section 315, row 16, seats 13, 14. Can't get those tickets because I'm sitting there. But you can get tickets maybe near me. Come hang out with me. There's probably a lot of good deals up there, up in the boonies. So go to SeatGeek. Check that out. So excited for week 1. I got really excited for week 1 last year. I recently remembered how excited I got for week 1 last year and be like, this is going to be the game that's going to set the tone for the season. And now I'm like, yeah, let's just bring that same mentality back for this year against the Cowboys. We've got the hookup. Use code GIANTS for $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. That's $20 off your first purchase with promo code GIANTS. Click the link in the description to download the app today. You'll certainly be glad you did.
You'll be glad you did.
I checked Twitter while you're reading, and I did tweet about I just did like first round Emeka Egbuka, second round Cam Kinchens, who we're about to talk about.
Yeah, you did that to yourself. Yeah.
And it's like, man, why did I do that? It's like Dorian Singer, Mario Williams, and Adonai Mitchell all better than Emeka Egbuka. Like, one, it's hard to imagine 3 guys be better than him. I hope they are, but I haven't even looked at any of those cats. Like, who is?
You did that to yourself.
I know I did. And I had one guy like, sorry, we're taking D-line. Like, you sure about that, man? Are you sure about that?
Love the passionate 2024 draft takes.
I'm excited to watch these guys play more college.
Yeah. Wide receiver for USC. What was his stats? I'm going to pull up his stats. This guy had 631 yards with Caleb Williams.
Tough.
Guy had 1 catch for they scored 48 points versus UCLA. He had 1 catch. Sorry, man. I haven't watched this guy. I'm just going to say you're wrong. All right. The guy I love. Miami safety. Cam Kinchens. And I won't say that I haven't rated higher than Jalen Phillips yet. Let's let the season play out. And let me get some more all-22 film on him. But Miami safety Cam Kinchens, 5'11", 202 pounds. Last year he had 59 tackles, 1 forced fumble, 1.5 tackles for a loss, and 6 interceptions. 6 interceptions. Now, the more you cover football, you see the high interception number, and you say you're not impressed by it. You say, let me see these interceptions, because a lot of times you see that number and they're bullshit interceptions. It's a safety, it's a wide receiver being overthrown on an in route, and it just lands in the safety's hands. A ball pops up. You might make one good one. No, Cam Kinchens' interceptions are really, really impressive. They are, center field range type plays, man coverage, undercutting routes. Like, these interceptions are really, really impressive out of Cam Kinchens, and he plays like it, man. He is a rangy, versatile, and instinctive safety that any team in the NFL should want. His speed is excellent, both in short area and long range, and just playing center field, playing from too high, he's just extremely instinctive to read the QB and make plays on the ball. Or keep quarterbacks from making plays down the field. Like, I was watching versus Clemson, and their quarterback, it was like you could tell they had these big plays. They would have these big plays drawn up, like they're want to take a shot here, and they would never take the shot because Kinchens was cutting them off. And not only does he make plays on the ball, but he has amazing ball skills that leads to the high interception number. Like, the play, like he catches the ball like a tight end sometimes. So he does all that in zone, and then when you watch him, man, one, he's physical as hell rerouting guys. Like, he'll put dudes on his ass rerouting guys. And I think when he's in off, like, he's got great route recognition with it, and the speed to undercut it. Like, I can't remember what team it was against. He had an interception where he's in off coverage, recognizes the route, undercuts it, knows where the QB's going there, bam. No, he's not the quickest to come up in the... I know I'm reading the whole damn report. Not the quickest guy to come up in the run. Part of that, I think, was his duties at Miami. But, man, the dude can lay a hit when he does come up and play the run.
Trump.
I'm going to run through a couple of things here because I really liked Cam Kinchens as well. I think when he's in too high, he looks really, really good watching for things in front of him. I think he triggers really well. I think he recognizes routes really well. And I think he plays downhill strong, but responsibly. He doesn't overrun anything. He knows exactly when to tempo his speed. And that's one of my favorite things about him. One thing that you didn't mention, I watched him against North Carolina. In too high, he commits cardinal sin like 2 times in that game where he just is not the deepest guy in the field, and he got burned 2 times. A little caught too much looking in front of him and not worrying about what's going on to his right. So that's something I'm definitely going to keep an eye on him with him. It could have been a 1-game thing where that's kind of all I watched to get a general idea of him. But we'll see going forward, because that's a pretty big fuck up for a safety. Sorry. I mean, that's just that's like the one thing you can't do is let somebody get behind you. But everything else looked really good. He's a strong, solid tackler. Like I said, he comes in fast but responsibly. He knows exactly how to tempo his speed and keep his angles good so he doesn't get juked, he doesn't get fooled, and he doesn't overrun the tackle. I think he's a really good hitter. He generally wraps up really, really well. He's not Cam Chancellor, but he can lay the wood really well. He knows how to like tempo that closing speed well. Man coverage, he is very quick, like surprise, like because he's so patient in zone, you wouldn't expect him to be such a quick-footed guy in man coverage, but he actually is really good in man coverage. Maybe a little jumpy. I'd be worried with an experienced quarterback knowing how to fake him out and just make him react to things that he shouldn't. But I mean, of all the problems to complain about, that's really not real high up on the list. I like Kinchens a lot. I think maybe you're a little higher on him than me, but I watched him make 2 serious screw ups. So we'll see how the year goes, but he has the high ceiling to be a first round pick.
I didn't watch that North Carolina game. So it's how these things change from now to when it's like, okay, let's go watch, 3 games of all 22, where it's like I only had 1 game of all 22, and then watch a little broadcast stuff. And then as a Miami fan, I'm not the biggest Miami fan, but seeing like the plays he's made.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you guys, kind of said it all. But the 2 things that I'll add is, Bobby said, he the way that he goes after the ball, like reminds you like a tight end. Attacks the ball at the highest point in the air, which I think is so key. When you have, especially there are a lot of secondary players that we look at that, drop interceptions. We certainly know as Giants fans, a lot of our players like drop interceptions. Going up and catching that ball at the highest point of the air, it just trying to make a play on a football, the highest point in the air, leaves you more of a chance that you're going to come down with that ball, which is so key, and it can completely change a game. And you do see when you watch games that, he has to force QBs to account where he is on the field and think about, am I going to take a chance and, throw this ball down the field, with the chance that, Kinchens can come and maybe pick this ball off or make a play on the football. So, when you actually can see a guy that's, being part of the game planning against them, kind of like at the college level like that, that's a pretty impact player, and excited to see how that's going to evolve as games go on this year.
And with just assigned safety room too, it gets me a little more excited in him, where it's like Xavier McKinney's contract's expiring. Don't know what's going to happen with that. And then opposite him, it's like, you don't have a true answer there. Like, you got some guys, we're going to see what they can do there, but you don't have any answer. Like, we don't, at least right now, we don't have any answers there. So Cam Kinchens, he's going to be, I'm just going to say it right now, way too early mock draft. And in the bye week, the midseason mock draft, probably going to have Cam Kinchens in it.
Wow.
Unless we're picking like 64, which I would be very happy about. All right, next on this list, a little disappointed because I've seen on the way too early mocks, this guy was like the most mocked to the Giants. And that is Penn State edge Chop Robinson, who's 6'3", 240, at 5.5 sacks, 10 tackles for a loss. To keep it short, I don't think his film is very good, just in general. It's not like, oh, he's making plays, but he needs to make them this way. I just don't see enough good stuff on film. Like, he's quick, but he's small-framed edge who, like, I think he desperately needs weight put on to him. Like, we talk about Dallas Turner maybe adding some weight. Like, no, this guy just can't play the run very well at all. Like, he gets swallowed up. Like, he gets dominated out on the edge. And he's got a good first step, but Grump, me and you were talking about him before the episode, and it's like we had the same notes where it's like he's a good, not great athleticism, but the first step is really good, and it makes plays for him and allows him like to shoot gaps on the run. But for a guy who is undersized, supposed to be the athletic, like, he's got to add a lot to his game because he is not a freak athlete. He's a good athlete, but he's not a freak athlete.
Yeah, I'm not in love with it. I can see why people would get enamored because he does have a really good first step. I think he gets a good jump on the ball, and then you add in some good speed, not great speed, and it may at times, especially at the college level, look better than it really is. From what I've seen, though, I mean, the explosiveness and the speed, good, not elite, and that's kind of like the best trait he has. He does have a couple of like pass rush moves. I saw him use a rip move at one point. He does try and get around the edge. His bend is not good.
Yeah, his bend is average. So it's like he gets that good first step, solid athlete, so he can like kind of get to the corner, but he doesn't finish. He doesn't
finish it. Yeah, no. And against NFL tackles, especially left tackles, it's going to be a net zero there. So, I mean, I think he's got a good lower body drive and motor. I think he gets his hands in a good spot. Where I see him, it's not necessarily even like a body size thing that I noticed. It's a lack of strength thing. He is just not strong upper body. Like,
no, he's weak.
He's weak upper body. If he gets hands in on him, he's pretty much done. And then when he kind of slides a little bit closer to the inside, I'm not really sure if he's lining up sometimes at like the 4 spot or like something like that, maybe the 5 spot. His best plays, he's really relying on like getting that quick jump and then getting skinny and hitting the gap. He's not taking on anybody. So, and when he does get taken on, he loses. So I think it's really just a lack of strength thing. He's going to have to bench press or something. I'm not really sure. But I don't see him making the improvements he needs to make in 1 year. I would be pretty shocked. I think he might be returning to school.
Like I said in the run, like, he's only going to win by shooting gaps with his first step. And that's not how you consistently get on the field in the NFL. And you mentioned strength. One of my bullet points is strength is severely lacking and a huge detriment to him. So yeah, like Dallas Turner, I can see growing. Chop Robinson, I fear that he's going to be a guy where we look back at the way too early mocks and be like, why was he mocked in the first round? Like, I think out of all the guys we're talking about, he's that one for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think he might go back to school, so I feel like that's
he should,
thing to say.
He should.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm putting Chop Robinson like in this lump of Penn State pass rushers that maybe get a little. I think A.B. Katie's the only exception but still, I mean, EBK wasn't even like that tremendous. Penn State pass rushers that are lumped into the same category of they get a lot of hype. They get a little hype because they're somewhat athletic, but they really just don't know how to use their hands and they don't have a lot of moves. I feel like that has been a lot of Penn State pass rushers that have come out of there the last couple of years. They just don't have moves. They don't know how to use their hands, but they're somewhat athletic and teams will fall in love with them.
It might just be like a strength and conditioning problem with the program or something. I'm not.
No,
really
I think it's the opposite. I think it's like it's a coaching thing. I guess they come out, they're fine athletes. Like I said, I think EBK is the only exception, and it also may also just be a problem with edge rushers in general, where if you're not a top guy, are you actually going to be like a real legit difference maker in the NFL? Which it could just be a positional thing too.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, so like Chop Robinson, I was just the name. It's like an edge rusher.
The name is
Chop
awesome.
Robinson.
You have a lot of good names here.
So it was like, okay, like I was excited to watch, and I was like, ugh, like I didn't come away from this with this film impressed at all. Like I come away from that film and being like, why is he being talked about here? Like what even put him in this conversation?
Like, you can't have the first name Chop and not utilize the chop.
Yeah, you gotta, like, that's another thing. Master the cross chop. Like we need you to work the cross chop, the chop.
Yeah,
chop with the chop. All right. Next on this list, it's a son, another junior, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., son of, you guessed it, Jeremiah Trotter. Played for the Eagles. 3 different stints, by the way. I went back and actually looked at like his Pro Football Reference. I was like, oh yeah, he did play for the Eagles 3 different times. Linebacker out of Clemson. And he's a linebacker out of Clemson that actually plays linebacker. Glares at Trenton Simpson. Had 89 tackles, 6.5 sacks, 13.5 tackles for a loss, and 2 interceptions. But he is small, 6'1", 210 pounds, and that's the worrisome thing with him. So not the size you want, but someone who does play linebacker well. And he is a good athlete who like knows how to harness it and unleash it at the right times, like good lateral movement to stutter and slip blocks. Excellent tackler with burst to the football, and he's able to bend around and work towards the play. Stack and shed. That's the thing I look for now, though, with linebackers. Do you stack and shed? Like, I'm not falling in love with athleticism, with playmaking. Do you stack and shed? It needs more strength to do it consistently, but you see him at least working it. And he's really good in coverage, I think, with his anticipation, understanding, and athleticism. So Jeremiah Trotter Jr., I want to see him add some weight and strength because I like watching him play linebacker. Where a lot of guys who are his size, I do not enjoy watching them.
Man, you said he's 210?
That's what he's listed at. I mean, he doesn't look like he's 210, but that's what he's listed at.
I have 225.
I have 230. But regardless, 6 foot and 210, that's like wide receiver measurables. That's like pathetically low. That's like needs to be improved. But
looking at his college reference, 6'1", it says 6'1", 210.
I believe you. No, I mean, and college numbers from like the official website definitely lie. So I'm not going to.
Usually they lie in the good way too, not in the bad way.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, we'll see what his combine is, but it's going to be a
6 foot 230.
That's probably where I took it to.
I mean, he doesn't look 210. So, but he is small though.
He's definitely small. It's definitely a note I have. I think he looks pretty comfortable in zone coverage. I think he looks good reading the backfield and understanding it. I think he plays to the man pretty well. I think he might. I worry about his foot speed a little bit in short areas. I'm not sure how he's going to do with man coverage on the underneath routes. I think he might be exposed a little bit there. I do like him coming in on blitzes. I think he has really good timing on his blitzes to disrupt things. He just knows exactly when to hit the gear and hit the gap. His read and react timing is really, really good. I like his trigger. And I think that he just switches to a complete downhill mode. It's like he's a different person when he goes downhill. And on top of that, I think he's a quality tackler. I think he's also, of all the guys that we watch, I think he's the best at being able to break off of blocks. That's the note I have. I don't particularly remember writing that, but I did. It was last night, so it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
Oh, also with spying, I think that, and he was used a little bit in this way. I think he can handle doing spies on like mobile quarterbacks, but I think a dual threat quarterback is going to outrun him. So I think for him, the biggest detriment, like size, you can improve. He can get bigger, he can get stronger, but he's not going to get any faster, really. So, I mean, that's kind of my big worry is how he's going to handle the shiftier guys and the faster guys he's got to tackle out of the backfield.
Yeah. I mean, I did think he was like an excellent tackler, and he's kind of got that burst to the football. For the most part, I thought he fit up in the run pretty good. Now, there was one play, I think it was versus FSU, where it's like it was a zone run, and he just undercut it. It's like your gap just was the reason they got a 15-yard run. So that's a little worrisome. And that's always the hardest part, I think, about grading linebackers from college to the NFL. It's like it's just hard to know exactly what your run fit is in this sometimes, especially when they're throwing a lot of action at you. But he seemed to be in the right place at the right time for the most part. So I like Jeremiah Trotter Jr., and I don't want him to go to the Eagles like his father.
Good point.
I think they should be stripped of all their draft picks for their shady move.
By the way, this is like a month ago. I was very happy watching Mike Florio grill Howie Roseman about the it was like one of the few good things Mike Florio's ever done.
I was going to say, is this the nicest thing you've ever said about Florio?
He was grilling Howie Roseman about the Cardinals Jonathan Gannon thing. I can't even remember exactly what he was saying, but he's like, it just happened right before the draft. Like, that's kind of weird timing, right?
Oh yeah, well we were on live talking, like when it was all unfolding, we were all together live for the draft, and then
Roseman threw the way that Florio goes about his business back in his face. It was a very weird interaction.
Yeah,
I don't know. The whole thing was weird. It definitely felt like he knew that there was conversations happening with the Cardinals and Gannon, approved it, and then, did this weird underhanded deal where it's like, oh, the NFL doesn't have to punish them. Just give us draft picks. Like, has that ever happened? I don't even really know.
I have this theory that Roseman told Gannon to have conversation with the Cardinals. It's fine. Go ahead and do it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I don't remember any other time where a team broke rules, and instead of the NFL punishing them, they let them settle the broken rules with the team who was prejudiced. Jonathan Gannon was leaving anyway, whether he went to Arizona or not. The team that was prejudiced got rewarded.
And they traded for a bunch of.
I don't know.
About how the Jonathan Gannon tampering situation came to be. How did you find out about it?
Yeah, I think for me personally, obviously, extremely appreciative of JG and his contributions to our football team. Helped us win the NFC. That was handled, as we discussed before, at the ownership level, and I think the more we look in the past, the less focused we are on the future.
Such a stupid answer.
For me, that's
don't
over
talk
with.
about it.
Wish him well in Arizona, and we're moving on.
Such a rat
Did you guys
answer.
actually make a complaint, or was this the Cardinals raising their hand saying, we realize we screwed up?
I'm really appreciative of JG's contributions, helping us win the NFC, and that was handled at the ownership level, and I think we need to move on. And, the less we focus on the past, the better we'll be in the future.
What? What do you mean?
He's just pleading the fifth. He's like, let's just move forward about it. It's like, kind of not really.
That line the same time twice.
He's doing like that corporate, like,
I know, no, you got.
don't worry about the past.
Your talking points are on point, but do you not realize that answers like that make people like me think there's a hell of a lot more to this than anyone is ever going to tell us, and it was a much bigger deal than anyone ever let it on to be? Don't you see that as a reasonable
If I was making a list of top 5 conspiracy theorists around the National Football League,
which is true,
you would be on. I don't know that you'd be one. I don't want to appoint you as one, but you would definitely be top 5.
He would be top 5. That's true.
But that's also not an answer to the question.
It's nowhere near an answer to those questions.
The announcement was made minutes before round 1 began. Didn't you even chuckle at that? Good Lord, they're announcing this to the world literally minutes before the draft starts.
It is possible that's when resolution came, right?
Well, I guess that's possible. Is that when it came?
Again, I don't want to get into any details.
So it's just insane.
So you don't want to tell. I don't want to say. So the answer is yes. I fucking knew this was going to. I don't know. Whatever. I'm being bitter.
Grump, I want you to get your boy out of Iowa ready while I read an ad. And guess what? I love this freaking ad because I love bird dogs. Because bird dogs, they make me look good. Real good. By the way, promise to the listeners, I will never read an ad like, what's the guy's name?
Great radio.
What's the guy's name?
I don't know.
He had a really bad ad read.
Oh, was it in our company?
No. Damn it, Julian sent it to me actually too. What's the guy's name?
Didn't send it to me. Julian likes you more than me.
He has like his own website. It's like a Republican guy.
Oh, sure. You'll never read an ad read like that guy. Instead,
Glenn Beck. I will never read an ad like Glenn Beck.
Sure.
Because bird dogs, they're too good for that. Their stretch khaki shorts are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you a truly sculpted look. I mean, these are perfect for the summer. The bird dog shorts fit way better than regular shorts that are made of a stiff, restricting cotton. So it's like you can find a pair of shorts that fit well and look well in the summer, but they're super uncomfortable. So it's finding that mix between the two that bird dogs really gives you. And bird dogs fixed that issue by inventing cloud knit fabric that looks just like khaki but stretches so you get a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice movement. I mean, these shorts really are the best you'll ever find. Bird Dogs also uses anti-stink sweat wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long. We don't want to be stinking. No stinking thinking. So go to birddogs.com/giants for a free Yeti-style tumbler with your order.
What?
That's birddogs.com/giants for a free Yeti-style tumbler. You'll be glad you did. Talk to us about Cooper DeJean, cornerback out of Iowa, Grump.
So I really like Cooper DeJean, and I'm not even sure if I'm saying that right. Probably not. He was the first guy of this group that I watched too. 6'1", 209 pounds. You know, same as our linebacker friend, I guess. 20 years old. He's a true junior. This guy, is he listed as a corner? I don't really view him as a corner. He reminds me more of what Julian Love kind of is.
Damn, that's...
Go ahead.
I was going to say, because you said you were in love with him, and I was watching, I was like, is a move to safety maybe in the cards here?
So where he played in the box. He played at linebacker. He played slot corner. He played outside corner. To me, he looks the best in the box in an off-man kind of zone DB situation. I think that the quickness isn't really there to be a press man guy, especially at the line of scrimmage. I think his off-man coverage is very good. I think he has excellent route recognition. I think he has closing speed and active hands to make pass breakups. Like even when he makes mistakes, he's able to, he just understands timing and when to just kind of like throw his hands into the passing lane. I think he's physical without being grabby. I don't think I saw any plays where he was grabby. I think that he has the quickness and the adjustment speed isn't quite there, which is sort of like a Julian Love thing, right? Like we saw him at Notre Dame and everyone understood he was not going to be an outside corner at the next level. The speed just wasn't really there for him. I think he can get separated from in close coverage, but he mirrors pretty well. I think he's especially well in off-man coverage. With zone stuff, I think he has really fluid hips. He's got smooth feet to move while watching the backfield. I think that he plays close to the man. I think he trades coverages very well, one of the harder things to do. And I think he recognizes plays as they're developing on the fly. Another guy who isn't just recognizing what's happening right in front of him. He's recognizing the bigger scheme of what the route combinations are doing. So he knows exactly what he needs to do and what the other coverage is doing and what the whole play design is trying to do. You know what I mean? Like he's not going to just follow a clear out route, you know, just because he's the guy running deepest or anything like that. He's understanding what's happening. With ball skills, I think that's kind of where he shines. I mean, he doesn't have like elite closing skills, but he does have natural ball skills to make pass breakups. He knows when to look for and avoid pick plays and coverage. I really like this kid. I think that if he develops and continues to get more and more intelligent and, you know, just fine tune the other things, the lack of foot speed is going to perhaps, you know, keep him from being an outside corner. Maybe he won't even be a slot corner, but I think he'll be a valuable utility defensive back. And while that may not make him a first round pick, I think it could give him like the NFL longevity that a lot of guys don't have. And I think what makes me excited is that, like, to me, it's a lot less impressive to see like these insane athletes that do a lot of wrong things than it is to see a guy who's a really good athlete, but do all the right things. So I think he's really interesting. Guy was absolutely not on my radar. I'm going to be excited to watch some Iowa stuff this year, which is cool.
So I've let you go first because you told me like, oh, I'm in love with this guy. I was like, I don't know if I'm in love with him, but like there was this thought, and again, I'm usually not the change position guy, but it seems like with this class I am. So here's a few, like I agree with you. Like he's got a good anticipator, especially in his own coverage. He keeps his eyes in the backfield, which couldn't get him in trouble a little bit. Like he's physical, eager to play and run support. But the biggest negative points I have on him is like I think it's like he has speed to hang with wide receivers, but not makeup speed. So it's like if a receiver like gets him to stutter or he makes a small mistake, like he's not going to make up back into that catch space, and then his change of direction agility can be like an issue for him. He's just not springy like that. So like if you get him on a whip route, he's going to get beat. So I was like, man, maybe a move to safety is the move for him, or just be like a really big nickel corner, which again, it's like you're talking about Julian Love as a New York Giant. So I was going to be like, I'm not super high on this guy. And then you said the safety thing. I was like, oh, okay, we are on the same page on everything.
And knowing where, having good processing and predicting kind of like where the QB could be going with the ball. I was watching some videos, and he's a former high school quarterback. So he kind of uses that kind of like background, that background info and that background experience on, well, this is, since I was a quarterback, this is what I would be thinking here. This is what I would be processing. So this is how I feel like I'm going to try and win, and then you see all the ball production, all the interceptions, and also three touchdowns this past year too, which was kind of crazy out of those 5 or 6 interceptions. 72 tackles with a 3.9% missed tackle rate. That is really good. Whether he stays a corner or he goes to safety, and as a safety, you're probably going to be asked to maybe do go in the deep, go deep or play in the box. If you're a short tackler, kind of that move to safety could certainly be in the cards for him, and only 3 penalties. So this is a guy that, like Grump said, he's not, he's not grabby or anything like that. So Cooper DeJean, French? I kind of hope he's French. Would think he would be.
DeJean, I think it's his school picture on the website looks like Snacks.
Looks like Snacks.
Oh, he's a redhead.
What's with Iowa and these white corners?
Yeah.
I mean,
Riley Moss and now Cooper DeJean.
I don't know, man. Riley Moss is pretty good too, though.
I guess I would should never be like, what's with Iowa and these white anything? It's Iowa.
You mentioned his tackle rate. What did you say? A 3.9 miss rate?
Yeah, missed tackle rate. Yeah.
Yeah. I have in here that he's a really, really good play recognition to make good open field tackles, and he does a good job to make sure that he's making head up and straight on tackles often, which is usually a big issue. It's usually the reason guys miss tackles.
For sure.
All right, let's finish off way too early draft week with JT Tuimolau, and I learned how to pronounce that name. It's like, suck it. The edge out of Ohio State, who's 6'4", 277 pounds. This guy does not need to add weight. He's got the size. He had 3.5 sacks, 10.5 tackles for loss, and 2 interceptions for the Buckeyes last year. Versatile edge defender. Even though he has the size, I still want to see him add some strength. I think his athleticism is average. Like, his athleticism isn't making a ton of plays for him. And for his play style to work, like he's got fine strength, but for his play style to work, I think he needs to add real strength to play out there on the edge. Here's the best thing I notice about him, besides we'll talk about coverage. He has great footwork. Like, there is no false step in his game, and he has a bag of pass rush moves that all start with the feet, whether it's like working a spin move, working in, out, ghost move. Like, it all starts with really good footwork, despite the fact that he's not like dominantly strong, kind of an average athlete, and doesn't have bend. You see the footwork is there. So it's like, if he can get really strong with that footwork, then he can have like a run defending edge role in the NFL.
First of all, this dude is huge.
He is.
And that's why it's like, be way stronger, dude. That's my issue with him.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. 270 pounds is what he's listed at. I would even say that he's too heavy. Sorry, I have a cat, and he's gonna meow because that's what cats do.
That's what we like that on the podcast.
And for a true junior too, 270 pounds is pretty wild. But he's a thick dude. Like I wouldn't say it's like all belly weight or anything like that. But I do think that he should cut a little bit, stay nice and jacked, whatever. Perhaps add strength, like you said, be stronger. But he doesn't really have great speed or bend for the edge. He has some natural strength to him, I would say, from the lower body. He's got like some good drive to him. I think he has some active hands, even if they're not developed and doing anything necessarily productive. At least he understands to use them and move them a whole bunch. He just looks raw with that. I wouldn't say he looks bad, just looks raw. He's got that stocky stature and the big body to move inside if necessary, but he doesn't have the strength for it right now, which you already mentioned. The craziest thing is how unnaturally good he looks in coverage for a guy who is 6'4", 270.
Really good. And he has great hands too.
It's nuts. I watched whatever game I watched against Penn State. He had a pick, and it looked so sweet. It was just like right into the hands. It wasn't.
He should have had another one too. I don't know what happened, if there's a penalty or something, but he had 2 interceptions on all 22 film.
Yeah, it's funny, as I don't know what happened with that either. But like usually when you see edge guys get picks, it's either like a stupid screen pass that just went straight into his hands, or it gets tipped at the line and it's bouncing around and he's just got, those tip drill kind of things. This was like actual route recognition, coverage, and undercutting a route. I was floored. Not just because it was an edge guy, but just looking at him, he just looks too big to be moving that smoothly. So I think there's some really rare stuff with him that you don't see often, that I would like to see further. I would like to see him get better because he does do things I've not seen before.
So what is the role for him in the NFL? A run defending edge?
I did corner. I don't know. Yeah. I'm not really sure. I don't think he's ever going to be like a pass rush guy because he just doesn't have the foot speed for it for me.
Yeah.
I guess he would be just kind of I don't know. I don't know how do you utilize his coverage ability? Like how do you use that?
I mean, I almost don't even think you can, but so I almost think just lean into the size. If this is a powerful player, lean into the size and let's get you in the interior.
Yeah, that makes it. I mean, he'll also look good on like tackle end stunts, but you can't live off of that. Like I could see him playing at the edge and just kind of like just throwing all of himself right into the tackle and letting the defensive tackle loop around and doing well at that, but that's not a living.
Footwork is so much more important than like hand moves and stuff like that. Like it's something that gets overlooked, I think, in the draft process, and especially me when I first started. I'd fall in love with these guys who have these hand moves, but it's all about the footwork in the NFL. So it's like there's enough there to work with, but he doesn't have the athleticism that you kind of desire, and I want him to get a lot stronger. So now that we're at the end of this episode, I can admit I kind of wish we would have chose like less edges or something, because I was like, edge is my favorite position to watch. I didn't love Chop, obviously. Didn't love this guy. Dallas Turner I like, but I'm not like full bloom in love with like first round guy. I should have just, even though Jared Verse, the FSU guy, is projected to go top 5, we should have just talked about him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that it hurts that we would have done that, but I think it's fine that we chose the edge guys that we did, because regardless of whether or not they're good or ready or ahead of schedule or whatever, it's still going to be a position of focus for the Giants regardless. Like they have to address the edge room in the draft in the next 2 drafts. So I don't think
Bobby hates Azeez Ojulari. He's trying to force Azeez out.
I need Azeez to stay healthy, man, because I'm getting worried about that. Like last year really worried me. It's not some guy who dealt with one injury. It's like, this is like, you were injured a lot, dude, like with different injuries. I mean, he was injured. He was put on PUP to start, got injured again the first preseason game he played, then got injured quickly. Like he just got injured like 6 different times. It was like almost like Kadarius Toney the first year.
Yeah, and I think you could kind of predict it with just the amount of weight that he put on in an offseason. In one
And he put on more weight.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, so I don't know, because it's so frustrating because he looked like a different player, man. Like, a lot of times we see these guys with good rookie years and we expect, like, oh, year 2 is going to be so much better. And it's like, no, this is kind of where he's going to plateau in the NFL, be a little better. He made, like, real growth. And we just, like, every time he was on the field was sick, but it's just.
He had a sack in every single game that he played in.
I don't know, but he had a lot of sacks in the games that he did play in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not out on him.
Fumbles, I think, too. Like,
yeah, he's a productive player. I'm not out on him at all.
No, me either.
This is a big year for him to be healthy. Like, even if he takes a step back, it's more important to me that he plays 15, 16 games. I would say 14 games is fine. It's just more important to me that he plays 14 games than if he plays 6 games and gets 6.5 sacks. You know what I mean?
Speaking of 2021 Giants draft picks who have injury issues, Ellison Smith? No. What did you think of Kadarius Toney flicking off all of New York?
Oh.
I actually quote tweeted it today. Did you see? I saw like.
I did our picture of me flicking the camera off to it.
I know somebody did the hottie one.
If he wants to do that, I don't mind. But here's what frustrates me is like, well, he got a Super Bowl ring. It's like, okay, yeah, but like,
well, congratulations on your participation.
Yeah, so did 52 other guys on the team. Like, it's like,
Jared Lorenzen had one too.
Because I captioned it, "Thanks for Darren Waller" with it. People are like, well, Darren Waller, like, he got a Super Bowl ring. And they're like, well, wait for Darren Waller to see if he's going to be healthy. It's like, well, even if he's not, he's going to be healthier than freaking Kadarius Toney. Like, and he's much better. Like Toney's win on the Giants would be getting a big second contract, which at this point of his career looks like is not happening. Like, it's great you went to the Chiefs and won a Super Bowl with the best quarterback in the NFL, probably the best quarterback of like this generation. The best quarterback of this generation. But it's like,
yeah, I mean, he got a participation.
Well, he contributed in the Super Bowl, but it's like you also
that's it. Like,
yeah, but and also, it doesn't frustrate me that Kadarius Toney gave New York the middle finger. That's not the thing that frustrates me. What frustrates me is the media and everybody else's reaction to Kadarius Toney doing that. And now it's like, oh, well, the Giants really lost out. I think no, like that type of like weird behavior by somebody who really didn't do all that much in the grand scheme of things. That's exactly why I'm glad he is no longer here.
He had more receiving yards in that Cowboy game than he did last season.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and it's funny because like the reaction is like, oh man, there's this beef going on. It's like, not really. I like keep forgetting about him at this point.
If he could stay healthy, he could give us the biggest middle finger ever. Like, he has all the ability, but he
do something first.
That's
why
showing up
on a team that was already going to the Super Bowl is not impressive to me.
Yeah. This like congrats. Like, I get you contributed to it. Like, you did have a touchdown and have that big punt return, but it's like you didn't contribute to the Chiefs' success very much that year.
No, but he probably thinks that he did, and that's the, it's like, all right, well, that's one of the reasons why, all right, you can get out of New York, and I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah.
Go.
I just don't understand. You're flipping off the city of New York because they traded you for a totally good reason.
And athletes should honestly, that they should.
Yeah, I don't mind him flicking off New York.
Yeah, I just don't care. I just don't know where it comes. I'm not offended by that. It's very whatever to me. Like,
I get frustrated by people thinking that the Giants really lost out.
Yeah,
on something.
that's the part.
No, exactly.
I agree 100%. That's the
no. They shed weight. They shed weight. They got better.
Yeah, him flicking this off does not bother me at all. But it was like the reaction, like, oh well, he did get Super Bowl. It's like, well, okay, like,
all right, well,
congrats, dude. Yeah, we traded him to the Chiefs.
That's like.
It's like if we traded him to any other team, he's not getting the flex.
It's like going to the Super Bowl but riding bitch on the way there.
Yeah, and he really contributed in the Super Bowl, but he did not contribute to getting to the Super Bowl barely at all.
Exactly.
So I thought that was my frustration as someone who was like, hey, I loved Kadarius Toney. I had all the ability in the world, just he couldn't stay healthy and was an asshole. Yeah. Which I don't care if you're an asshole as long as you can stay healthy and produce. He couldn't. But then I saw people saying you guys got to change the Toney Award. No, this makes me want to keep it because it's a stupid made up award.
Oh sure, yeah.
It's like it's always going to be the Toney Award because it's a stupid made up award that shouldn't be taken serious and it's a joke. Like,
You hear
I'm
that,
thinking about
Duggan?
canceling the award as a whole just because I don't want to give it to Dan Duggan again.
He's
Like,
gonna
I
have
think
to.
I might give the award to, like, myself or something, or Danny King.
Wow.
What did you break? Did you break something this year?
I've broken more news than 80% of the beat.
Yeah, but it's a yearly award, my friend. So what? So did you break anything this year?
I mean, I broke
Right.
something that last year's Tony Award winner was wrong about, the schedule. Where I was
I broke something this year.
yeah, Justin broke news.
Justin gets it.
broke the preseason. So yeah, so it's like, yeah, the Tony Award being the Tony Award is like that's always going to be the name of it. That's going to be like 80 years from now.
Yeah, but
When-
it's also like it goes back to his personality with the media, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah,
And-
that's
and,
all
like,
it was
that's
about.
never
It
gonna
wasn't
change,
about
and
his
that's-
accomplishments as a player. It's all about the media, some clowns. It's funny
Dude,
stuff.
and that's still one of my favorite things about him. I don't think
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
feel differently about that.
I'll
so that's
never
fine.
not miss, like, I will miss his press conferences. Like, I don't miss him much as a player, but I miss his press conferences.
For sure, yeah.
All right, that's an episode. Grump, thank you for joining us on
Yes,
this.
Grump.
We'll see you at training camp most likely. Hopefully the training camp schedule's out by the time people are listening to this. It was this time last year. Go check out the Just Giants podcast with Grump and the Cranky Fan. Always a good time. So yeah, we'll probably see you in training camp. Thanks again for helping us on with this.
No problem at all. I'm always happy to join. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, so it's, Grump's a big part of our draft coverage. Was there for the live streams, the Senior Bowl, that stuff. So, all right, have a good weekend. We'll be back next week on Tuesday. We appreciate you guys. We'll see you then. Until then, let's go Big Blue.